call your dentist because we're about to knock your teeth out. It's Piledriver, the Rock and Wrestling Radio Show.
If you smell what the Rock is cooking.
Well, it's the big show. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Goldberg and this crowd is on their feet.
Is this on? Yo, Jimmy, hit me with that Triple H.
We've got a new champ in the WCW. His name is Booker T, and maybe a new champ in the WWF by the end of the weekend.
Vince Russo's back, and I guess things are happy in Turnerland for the time being anyway. Hey, Candy, what are you doing up here?
Are you kidding? I knew this was my chance. As soon as I heard Kodiak was off wrestling for canned food in the woods of Minnesota, it's my turn, baby.
Well, Candy, you're literally a breath of fresh air. Or maybe that's something else. Compared to that Abe Kodiak, this week I get in the ring with the legendary Bret Hart for part one of my two-part match. We talk about his health, his feelings on Goldberg, and Vince McMahon, and lots more. Candy, hand me my scepter. Hand me my scepter! I am the czar of the ring! It's that big thing over there.
Ha, Raz, that looks more like a stick to me. You know what they say about the size of your scepter.
No. Really? Let's start the ass-kicking on this week's Piledriver, the Rock and Wrestling Radio Show.
Piledriver.
This is Raz, and we're coming to you from the entertainment and wrestling capital of the world, the heart of Times Square, New York City. The only city with rats bigger than cats and homeless people that'll beat the crap out of you with bricks if you don't tip them enough. And with me, filling in for Kodiak Bear, is our own TNA, Candy.
That's right. It's me, the Queen of Bitches, and welcome to Piledriver, the Rock and Wrestling Radio Show. And next to me is the man who single-handedly keeps the porno business running, Freak.
What's wrong with some harmless adult entertainment?
Nothing except for the fact you're blind in one eye and broke both your wrists.
The price you pay for porn. Well, sit back and get your helmets on and be prepared to get 3D'd for the next 2 hours as we cram all the sports, entertainment, rumors, news, and dirt down your throat that can fit.
Candy, give us some skinny on all the boobs in wrestling.
I've got the website for the WWF's hot new twins, plus the official word from Tammy Sitch, and some news on WCW's Spice and Gorgeous George. What a change of pace. I don't have to hear Kodiak's stupid remark before we start the show.
Actually, Shawn Michaels has a few words he wants to say to you.
Really? He is so hot.
Bring it. Suck it.
Really? I just might do that.
As always, let's ring the bell and let the madness begin.
And let the sucking start. Dropping harder than a kick from Kevin Nash's size 20 boot is Judith from A Perfect Circle.
Bone Crusher number 5. Piledriver. The WWF Report with Al Isaacs.
In the WWF this week, I am still trying to figure out The Undertaker, and I'm really not having much luck. He was dead. That was the point. He was a dead guy. He had a beast fellow named Paul Bearer who did all the talking for him and moved him around like a remote-controlled car with an urn. He wanted Undertaker to attack, he pointed the urn. He wanted him to follow, he pointed the urn. He wanted him to raise off the campers. You get the idea. And it worked. Everyone loved it. He can control the lights in the arena. He could set off pyrotechnics. He was indestructible. No one could hurt him. And then he became a biker. Huh? You know, from mercenary from hell to Hell's Angel. Covered in tattoos and coming to the ring to the strains of Kid Rock's American Badass. I mean, it's cool and all, but he was a demonic minion. Now he looks like a guy who fixes pickup trucks. I mean, color me confused. There was a time when he entered an arena in the back of a hearse, and now it's on the back of a Harley. I mean, there have already been bikers in wrestling. All kinds of badass dudes, bandana around the forehead, jeans and leather, and I have no problem with that at all. But it's really not that hard of a goal to achieve, you know? You buy a bike, buy some shades, and done. But becoming a zombie, now there, I mean, you'd have to at least buy some kind of voodoo yellow pages, get a friend to recommend a reputable witch doctor. Then there's the whole deal with being buried alive and rising from the grave with the strength of 10 men. Me, I rise from the bed in the morning with the strength of 4 kittens, and 2 of them are badly wounded. I mean, it was something unattainable, something you could never have. As a hero, you wanted to be like The Undertaker, and as a villain, you were scared to death of him. Sure, he's still scary, but the mystique of him returning to a crypt for his rest has been replaced with the realization he's crashing at some dude's pad for some buds and a smoke. I don't know, maybe it's just time to retire the name itself. You know, call him American Badass Mark Calloway. That I can live with. The Undertaker just isn't The Undertaker anymore, so maybe the name, like the character, should just rest in peace. From ScoopsWrestling.com, I'm Al Isaacs.
Candy, have you ever been in a steel cage before?
Only when I visit Kodiak at the zoo.
You think you could take me?
To the zoo?
No, in a steel cage match.
Raz, a quick flash of my jugs and it's game over.
Let's crack some skulls. It's steel cage time.
Coming in at 634 pounds, hailing from San Antonio, Texas, home of Shawn Michaels' Texas Wrestling Alliance, it's Union Underground with Turn Me On, Mr. Deadman.
This week's contender.
Turn Me On, Mr. Deadman, our contender. No one can seem to beat our reigning champ hailing from Escatawba, Mississippi, coming in at 556 pounds. It's 3 doors down with Loser.
Now, the reigning world champion, Piledriver.
It's time to play WWF Commissioner Mick Foley and pick what song gets their ass kicked and what song comes back to fight next week. He gives me the creeps with that half-air thing.
Email us at piledriver@mji.com. That's the contender, Union Underground, or 3 doors down, our reigning champion. So if you don't want Candy to give you a stinky face, you better email us now. Wait a minute, that's not punishment. If you want Freak to give you a stinky face, you better email us now.
At piledriver@mji.com. Raz, I stick my ass where I want it, thank you.
It's time for Candy's Corner.
Well, it looks like everyone might have jumped the gun a little early on Lex and Liz. It seems the First Lady of Valet's Miss Elizabeth is set to return with Lex Luger in the near future, so be on the lookout. The rumors are true. Gorgeous George is back in wrestling. She's now in the ECW and is going by the name of George. She hasn't signed a contract yet and is getting paid per appearance, but look for her to sign a deal once ECW gets its TV thing straightened out. As for that infamous porno, a copy is being auctioned on eBay. The going price, $51 last time I checked. Freak, if you give up your subscription of Fat Girls Do It Better, you might be able to afford it. That's it for now. Next hour, I'll give you the skinny on WCW's Spice's next move and where you can find the latest WWF hotties on the web.
And after intermission, I step in the ring with the legendary Bret Hart. You don't want to miss it.
Hey, this is Bret the Hitman Hart, and I get in the ring this week on Piledriver.
The Rock and Wrestling Radio Show. We're back with more Piledriver.
It's Raz, and you better call the APA to protect your ass, because I'm going to beat it. Here's Disturbed with Stupefy on Piledriver, the Rock and Wrestling Radio Show.
Bone Crusher at number 4. Piledriver.
Let's get some dirt from the king of all lies, our man Otis.
The Speculum with Otis Brawl.
Brawl here. Shano has a posse. Well, not quite yet, but look for McMahon the Younger to be forming his own faction. Count on the Canadians, Benoit, Edge, and Christian, as well as Perry Saturn. Not a Canadian, but he'll be there. And a surprise member will be Kane, turning face upon the Big Show's return. Well, I guess it's not a surprise anymore. With Vince off television again, Shane's going to need an army to hold down the fort. Can this motley crew provide the muscle needed to battle The Rock, Undertaker, Y2J, and the new commish, Mick Foley? Fully Loaded may be this weekend, but I have the scoop on SummerSlam. It's expected that the Hardys are going to be taking the tag team belts from Lazard's boys, Edge and Christian, in another stunning pay-per-view battle. SummerSlam's going to be in Raleigh, just a bump and a spill for Matt and Jeff's old stomping ground. This one could top the ladder match. Could also mean serious damage for an already slowing Jeff Hardy. Watch yourself, Warrior. Another proposed match for SummerSlam is the long-awaited Too Cool versus Rikishi. The turn's finally going to happen, but not the way you might think. I ain't giving this one away, but keep your eyes on this feud. Jumping ahead to another pay-per-view, the current plan is for a Booker T. Jeff Jarrett world title match at New Blood Rising, the August WCW pay-per-view. With the current state of the roster in flux, anything could happen between now and then, but Booker T is scheduled to hold the title for at least the next month leading up to the pay-per-view. And is the plan in place for a WCW split? Looks like the rumored division of the Federation into two separate organizations is finally playing itself out. Nitro and Thunder are now being written by two different teams, and this is expected to blow wide open when Bischoff takes his boys and starts a new ball game. The two outfits will operate separately and independently, with a possibility that one team would head to a new network, likely one of Rupert Murdoch's Fox networks. If they pull this off, there would be face-offs between the groups on special pay-per-views. Sounds like an awful lot on the plate for the boys who can't get the ratings past the 3 share, but if they can pull it off, it'll mean a well-deserved push for a lot of the guys stuck in the mid-card. Otis Brawl. I'll be back next hour with more from the Speculum.
Piledriver of the Week.
All right, no time to mess around. I know I'm not here. My choice for this week's Piledriver is Booker T. Booker T grew up in Houston's tough South Park neighborhood. He's the youngest of 8 children. Both his parents died by the time he was 14 years old. He began pro wrestling in Texas while attending the Houston area wrestling school and started out as, yes, you know it, G.I. Bro. He formed the Harlem Heat with his brother Stevie Ray to become one of the most dominant tag teams in WCW history. They won an unrivaled 10 championships. He's versatile. He mixes speed, power, and agility. He can stun an opponent with a missile dropkick or a scissor kick to the back of the head.
What the hell's he doing here? I thought he was wrestling Chims for cheese. My pile driver this week goes to X-Pac. I was really hoping he would turn on Triple H and send D-Generation X into a tailspin. They're in disarray and looking dumb on every diabolical maneuver they try. It would have been nice to see a quicker, more agile athlete beat on a meaty, muscle-headed freak and put him in his place. But what the hell do I know? I failed Spanish 3 times. Freak!
My pile driver is the guy with the most stroke, the original slapnut Jeff Jarrett. Double J came over from the WWF about 6 months ago and was literally carrying the WCW on his shoulders for a while. He has really stepped it up. He's a great villain, and who else in the WCW has come up with a great tagline besides Slapnut? Good job, Jeff. Yeah, I know the Honky Tonk Man used to bash people over the head with a guitar first, but who gives a crap? It's still cool. Keep smacking people, you slap ass. Candy?
My pile driver of the week is The Rock. You want a definition of a man? He got screwed over again a couple of weeks ago. Deserves a mention. I love his Samoan ass, and I would do anything to see what's under his lava.
Go ahead. 1, 2, 3. Count them out.
This week, Raz steps into the ring with the best there was, the best there is, and the best there will ever be, Bret Hart. Maybe in wrestling, Bret, but I'm the best there is, period.
Did you say period?
On the phone, the hitman, the excellent of execution, the best that was, is, ever will be, Bret Hart. Thanks for coming on Pile Driver, sir.
My pleasure.
Tell us about your medical condition. I hear the doctor won't clear you till November or December. How's that going for you?
Yeah, it's going better. Like every day, it's a little better. You know, I think I'm over the worst of what the effects of the concussion.
Right.
In probably just the last 2 weeks, I've kind of started to see the headaches finally go away, and sort of like had like a kind of a thickness in my head since I got hurt.
Right.
But always kind of got smaller and smaller. But I can actually say I think it's almost gone now. I mean,
you know, when you think about like head concussions, a lot of has been in the news lately, especially with players like Eric Lindros and Steve Young in the NFL, and your concussion. There seems to be a lot of things that they still need to uncover about these type of injuries.
Well, the doctor that I'm seeing is the head of the NHL Players Association for concussions. He was telling me that they're 20 years behind the times when it comes to concussions. That in comparison to the knees, he said you can just see how far they've come from where they were 20 years ago with knee surgery and stuff like that today. He said we're 20 years behind where we need to be on concussions. They really don't understand them well enough. People don't understand them. I try to be as helpful as I can with the doctors that I'm seeing by giving them as much information as possible so they can actually understand concussions better. My update or whatever is that I couldn't physically wrestle till at least November or December. That was decided quite a few, like maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago.
I guess my follow-up question to this entire thing is, do you think Goldberg is careless because of this kind of thing?
Well, I don't know if it's careless. I think he's a guy that's was put in a difficult position without the experience that you need. Bill would be the first one to admit that he feels horrible about maybe what happened to me.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, it's a very physical business, and guys always have got hurt in wrestling and stuff like that. But I will say that you just can't go kicking somebody in the head like Bill Goldberg kicked me, with everything that I have at stake and everything that I have to contribute to the wrestling business. And not just me, but like even some kid that's just starting out, or maybe a guy that's not very good, or where you just can't. Wrestling's not about hurting each other. It's not about seriously injuring somebody and going, well, too bad, you know. Because wrestling, there's no benefits, there's no pensions, there's no union, there's no. You know, when I got hurt, it affected me severely monetarily. It put a big scare into me emotionally and mentally. It just had such deep ramifications. It's affected everything I do, and it's just not something you shrug off and go, okay, well, I'll try to get it right next time.
Right.
I hope Bill Goldberg and other wrestlers will always remind themselves that this is not a job or a business where it's okay to hurt somebody, because it's not.
Piledriver.
When we come back, we find out what band jacks up the whole effing show. ECW's Rob Van Dam, plus more with the hitman Bret Hart as he talks about Goldberg and why his enthusiasm for wrestling seems to be waning.
This is The Rock, the people's champ of the WWF, and The Rock says you're listening to Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show, if you smell what The Rock is cooking.
Don't move your candy ass. Piledriver returns. You're listening to Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show.
This is Raz, and I'd like to chokeslam all you children of the corn-looking corn eaters who listen to Piledriver on KORB 93.5 in Davenport, Iowa. You corn-eating slap nuts. Is that enough corn?
Kodiak's Wrestling Dictionary.
All right, you long-eared galoops, it's time for you to learn. Here's some wrestling terminology and their definitions.
What the hell is he doing here?
A promo is an interview. When a wrestler speaks, they are cutting a promo. A high spot, that's a series of action-packed wrestling maneuvers, usually containing at least one high-risk maneuver. A chair shot. Well, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out. It's when somebody gets hit with a chair. If you would like to know a definition of a wrestling term, email me your term, and maybe I'll use it on the air. Send it to Kodiak Bear at KodiakBear.cc.
Rob Van Dam, you think you're the whole effing show. Try Piledriver. We're the whole effing show.
This is Rob Van Dam, the whole effing show. This week's hardcore tune-up is Pantera on Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show.
Piledriver.
Pantera, our hardcore tune-up.
The WCW Report with Al Isaacs.
So what's going on in World Championship Wrestling? Well, here's a question. Is Goldberg working as a heel? In a word, no. Fans still cheer him. He's still making the trademark moves and gestures that get fans riled up. The Fed thought that if he took out one of their all-time favorite icons, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, a few weeks back, that would put him over as a heel. Instead, well, viewers looked upon it as more of a favor. What to do? Well, first, stop giving the spear and the jackhammer. Absolutely refuse to do it. Tease it, start it, and give the finger to the fans and just walk away. Next, change the music. Its gladiator-like anthem gets that Pavlov-like reaction going. Fans can't help but cheer. But the biggest change has to come from Goldberg himself. And for that, I have no answers. He walks the same, he talks the same, and from people I've spoken with, he doesn't even want to be a heel. So until he figures out how to sell himself on the idea, fans won't be buying either. But you know, by the time you hear this, it could all be for naught. The current angle pitting Goldberg against fellow heel and longtime real-life friend Scott Steiner could very well signal a return to the land of the good guys for Big Bill Goldberg. We'll just have to wait and see. From ScoopsWrestling.com, this is Al Isaacs.
All right, losers, you know what time it is, right? It's our Body Slam Song of the Week. It's when we let you jabronis pick a song you want to hear on Piledriver. Just call us toll-free 1-877-792-SLAM.
And if we pick your It's Cool to Marry Your Sister and Be on Welfare dumbass, you're getting a cool Piledriver t-shirt. So call us now at 1-877-792-SLAM. It's a free call.
Hey, you're on the air.
Hey, this is Joanne, and I listen to Piledriver.
Try again, Joanne.
Yo, this is Joanne, and I listen to Piledriver on 93.3 WMMR in the good old city of brotherly love. And my Body Slam Song of the Week is American Badass by Kid Rock. And the biggest badass in the World Wrestling Federation is none other than the game himself, Triple H. And that's the bottom line, because not because Stone Cold said so, because I said so. And Raz, I think you're a sweetheart, baby.
Joanne, I didn't know you cared.
Raz, you hard-up loser. Stop trying to pick up listeners.
Yeah, you're right. Joanne, email me.
Piledriver.
Kid Rock, our Body Slam Song of the Week. Let's get back in the ring with Raz and WCW superstar and wrestling legend Bret Hart. He trains in a dungeon, huh? Hey, freak, isn't that where you pick up girls?
We spoke to Goldberg on Piledriver a couple of months back, and we asked him if he trusted anybody in the ring, and his first word was no. Is it because of that type of thing, where you're putting yourself, in this case, in Bill Goldberg's care, and then something like a kick to the head happens?
Well,
do you feel the same way?
I don't know. All I know is when I wrestled Bill, in the very same match, he said to me somewhere after the match, that that was the only guy he ever wrestled that was good for his word. So I don't know if that means anything or how that relates to what Bill.
Right.
Maybe he's talking about the wrestlers that are there around him now.
Right.
I feel bad for Bill in the sense that I think he's often inexperienced, and I think he knows that, and he doesn't know sometimes who to rely on, and I don't blame him.
A lot of people were very initially excited about Russo and Bischoff and what was happening, and now in the past couple of weeks, we've had some defections. You have any comments about that entire thing? And then, of course, DDP and his wife had a problem, and there seems to be a couple of other people that are unhappy.
The last time I was following things, he was having some kind of a storyline with his wife,
right?
Which is something I personally would never do.
Right.
I could do something like that with, well, not that, but I could do some kind of a situation with a pretend scenario like that. But I certainly wouldn't use my real wife and my real kids, or I don't know. Wrestling's it's so wacky that it's hard to defend it. It doesn't. I don't know if it even makes sense to criticize it anymore. The storylines have got so soap opera like. The industry's driven by the swerve. Let's swerve him here, and even though when you sort of know where you're going from A to B, they'll swerve you because they can't. It's almost like they can't stop tempting themselves with these swerves.
Right.
When in fact, I think the fans are tired of all the little swerves, and they're not as cute and funny and sneaky as they think they are.
Is this part of the? I've seen on some interviews that your enthusiasm for wrestling has waned recently. Is this part of the reason why?
Yeah, probably. I mean, because I don't see the wrestling anymore. I don't see the. I don't mind a good story. McMahon always had pretty intriguing storylines. Like my brother Owen, for example, when we wrestled each other. I think when you watch that storyline, there was a very strong current of intrigue that that sort of hooked you into to these two brothers fighting each other. And you can take that kind of. Vince has been able to pull off those kind of storylines for years, and that's always been his biggest credit. But I have always felt, despite any of the storylines, that it really always came down to the wrestling and who could wrestle and who could make a match exciting. If I look back years and years and years ago when I first was in the WWF, I can remember wrestling Ricky Steamboat in a match where there was no hype, there was no build-up, and we walked out in, I think it was Boston Garden, and tore the house down. That's what wrestling is to me. That's what I like to watch. Great wrestling and this struggle of wrestling holds and moves and sort of flow of psychology that you get in a wrestling match. Today, I don't see any of that. I see a bunch of guys whirling around and twirling and dancing like gazelles or something like that. And, I don't find the realism there. When I watch it, I go, nobody really fights like that.
After our next break, we have another hour of Canadian ass kicking. We got more with the legendary Bret Hart as he talks about The Rock, Stone Cold, and Hogan, plus music from Papa Roach and the Chili Peppers.
It's the innovator of violence, Tommy Dreamer, and you're listening to Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show. Listen to it, or I'll take you to the extreme.
More fun than a stinky face. Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show.
Hey, this is Raz, and next to me is someone who smells and looks a lot better than Kodiak. It's Candy.
That's right, it's me. I'm sitting in for Fat Boy this week as he hunts some humans in the backwoods of Minnesota. Raz is still in the ring with WCW superstar Bret Hart. First, let's get back to your Bone Crusher countdown.
It's the Deftones with Change.
Bone Crusher, number 3, Piledriver. ECW report with Al Isaacs.
Talking ECW, they say that events of misfortune often happen in threes. Well, in the case of ECW this year, it's more like multiples of 50 or so. In the last few months, the company has watched some of its top talent up and leave for promised fortunes in Turnerland. Names like Mike Awesome and most recently Lance Storm come to mind. Not to mention the guys from the WWF, Taz and the Dups. You get the picture. Then came the blow that their days at the Nashville network were numbered. TNN lawyers informed Paul Heyman that ECW had not lived up to their contractual obligation of delivering ratings at or above 2.0. Anyone who doesn't have their head in the sand knows that the network is just clearing the way to bring WWF programming over from USA this fall. And then, most recently, the announcement that the most famous bingo hall in all of wrestling history is shutting its doors. Viking Hall, known better to fans as ECW Arena, is being sold by the owners. The building in Philly is becoming too expensive to run, and its asking price is way out of Paul Heyman's range. Fans who've been around since ECW's meager beginnings can tell you that those walls have seen some great history. The careers of Mick Foley, the Dudley Boys, and Rob Van Dam all saw their beginnings there. Terry Funk made history at the first ECW pay-per-view inside those hardcore halls. It was in the worst part of town, it was poorly ventilated, uncomfortable, and on its last legs, the absolute perfect arena for Extreme Championship Wrestling. The house that Heyman built will sorely be missed. From ScoopsWrestling.com, this is Al Isaacs.
Raz and the legend Bret Hart are still sparring in the ring. Kick his ass, Bret!
Who would you consider a great wrestler today, as far as you being a professional?
Well, I really do like Bill Goldberg.
Right. He's raw.
He's raw.
Yeah.
He's real, and he makes you think it's he puts the reality of it in sometimes a little too much.
Right.
But he's one. I've always loved Benoit. Just the guys that are sort of solid, as you know. I'm sort of running out of names already.
What do you think of somebody like The Rock? You think he's too Hollywood?
I like The Rock. He's better than most. And I think there's three things that make a great wrestler. Sort of three categories. There's the look category. You got to have the right look. Like Hogan always had the right look. I think even from an athletic kind of standpoint, I had a good look. Maybe it was like a 7.5 out of 10. Hogan was maybe a 10 out of 10. Rock, it fits in there like at probably like a 9.
Right.
He's got a great physique and a great look when he walks into the ring or walks into a room. The other category is the mic department. You know, whether you can cut an interview and how well you speak on camera. Again, Hogan was like a 10 out of 10. He had one of the most had some of the best interviews. You know, where you had goosebumps on your arms. You know, and I was maybe a 7.5 or 8 on the interview department. I don't think I was as good as Hogan, but in Rock's case, I think he's like a 9 on the interview. He's a very well-spoken, intelligent guy and comes across as an interesting character on TV. The third category, which to me was always the most important category, is the work ratio or work standpoint. Hogan was really not a great worker. He wasn't a bad worker. I don't think he was as bad as people think he was, but he was like probably a 5 out of 10 worker. Or maybe a 4 out of 10 worker. But he added it all up together. He was this phenomenon wrestling. I think I was a 10 out of 10 wrestler, and I think Rock is somewhere in the 8 or 8.5 kind of range. And we add them all up together, and that's why Rock has what it takes to be where he is.
When you say the work ethic, are you talking about technique?
I think just his whole style. I mean,
yeah, because you said that wrestling sometimes right now is missing something, and that might be pure wrestling. Like somebody like Kurt Angle is actually a pure wrestler.
Yeah, well, I think it's the flow. It's not just about amateur wrestling either. And I don't know. I'm not familiar with Kurt Angle other than I know who he is.
Right.
But what it really amounts to is, like, from a work standpoint, there were so many guys that were great workers over the years, like Ricky Steamboat, Cowboy Bob Orton, Kurt Hennig, guys that knew when to throw a punch and knew when to duck and when to call it the right spot to switch the tempo in the match. Guys that could create beforehand in the dressing very simple things that would take the match to sort of unprecedented highs and different levels. Adrian Adonis, even Roddy Piper. There was guys that knew when to do all these different things in a match. I don't think Kurt Angle would have any of those kind of have the grasp of that yet. But I think Rock is somebody that gets a little better. Like Austin, for example.
Right.
Steve Austin was a great worker. One of the things, people always talk about Steve Austin. He had the right look, and he had those great interviews. But he wouldn't have been anything if he'd been a shitty worker. Mm. And he was a great worker, and that's why, added it all up together, he reached the level of success that he did.
I'll wrap up with Bret later as we talk about the art of a wrestling match and his feelings on wrestling writers. Now let's rewind with some Zeppelin.
Old school powerbomb. Piledriver.
Led Zeppelin, our old school powerbomb.
Piledriver, the official radio show in the state of Texas.
It's your time to tell it like it is. Our Bite Back question of the week. This week's question was, do you think it's a good move by the WWF switching to TNN this fall?
Now, let's bite back.
Yeah, this is Jason Gardo. Listen to the show on 995 KISS in San Antonio, Texas. Now, here's the deal. Is it a good idea for the WWF to go to TNN? It doesn't matter. No one watches Raw on USA so they can see Pacific Blue later. They could show WWF on a romance channel, well, as long as no one makes a pass at Midian, because, ew, doesn't matter where they are, because I'm going to put on whatever channel it takes so I can get my Monday night fix, and that's the bottom line.
Hi, this is Jerry from Franklin, Massachusetts, and I listen to Piledriver on 107.3 WAAF. And no, I just think it's a good move for the WAF to move to TNN because TNN is such a bad station and gets zero respect from everyone, and Raw could make a difference, but I don't think it will.
Hey, this is Juggle, and I'm listening to the Piledriver on 97.1 The Eagle, Dallas' only Raw station. And I don't give a shit where WWF goes. It's going to be kick-ass either way, even though TNN is a bunch of white trash stations.
This is Mike. I listen to Piledriver on WNOR 98.7 in Norfolk, Virginia. I think it's a terrible idea to move to TNN, but no matter where WWF goes, they're going to rock. But look how shitty TNN treated ECW. They'll do the same thing to the WWF.
This is John from Rockford, Illinois, and I listen to Piledriver on WXRX 104.9. And I think it sucks that WWF is going to TNN. TNN is full of hillbillies, rednecks, and they just suck. The women are ugly, and WWF is better off in USA where it belongs. And it sucks.
Yeah, this is John Bill, and I listen to 97.1 The Eagle in Dallas, Texas, and I don't think it's a good idea that the WWF should leave USA for TNN because TNN sucks, and if you don't give me a T-shirt, I'm going to put Kodiak through a damn table.
I'm not sure I understand something. Aren't all you Piledriver listeners white trash, toothless rednecks? I thought you would love TNN. Well, anyway, if you want to answer our Bite Back question of the week for the next show, just give us a call at 1-877-792-SLAM, and yes, it's a free call.
To the caller that's going to slam Kodiak if he doesn't get a T-shirt, I'll give you a 50 if you can lift him. As always, the question is on our phone line. Just call us at 1-877-792-SLAM. Answer the question, and if we use your bite, you'll get a cool Piledriver T-shirt to wear when you go wilding in Central Park. And if you want to buy your very own Piledriver T-shirt, send us $15 plus $3 for shipping and handling to Piledriver T-shirt, MJI Broadcasting, 135 West 50th Street, 8th floor, New York, New York, 10020. And specify your size, large, extra large, or family size.
What's pissing you off this week in wrestling? Well, let's give a big F you to them. Oh, I like saying F you. F you. F you.
Andy, calm down.
Hey, Raz, F you.
F me.
F you of the week.
A big FU goes to the WCW for using canned applause, which they do a lot. It's one thing to get the crowd going, but it just looks stupid when the crowd is sitting there watching those morons in action, or misfits in action, whatever those idiots are called, and we hear cheering and screaming and no one's opening their mouth. Here's an idea. If the crowd gets restless, end the match, throw some chicks out there, and everything will be cool. But please drop the canned applause. This isn't the 50s. I ain't watching I Love Lucy.
After intermission, Candy will talk chicks, and I'll wrap up with part one of my one-on-one with the legendary Bret Hart, plus music from Metallica and Papa Roach.
This is Billy Kidman of WCW, and you're listening to Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show.
Hey, Slapnuts, Piledriver will be right back. We're back with more Piledriver.
Hey, it's Raz, better than a fire extinguisher to the face. Here's Metallica with Until It Sleeps on Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show.
Piledriver.
Let's jump back into the ring with Raz as he finishes up part one of his interview with the legendary Bret Hart. Hey, Raz, is he single?
You know, on Piledriver a couple of weeks ago, we spoke to Shawn Michaels. And when I think about the matches you used to have with him, I can really see what you're talking about right now.
Yeah, there's a McShawn's another one. I could wrestle with Shawn, and you would watch basically maybe two of the best artists or professional wrestlers, like total professionals that have ever put on a pair of boots, and it's like flawless wrestling without very little effort or very little thought. It's not like we would have to sit down and rehearse and map out like to such incredible detail that after a while it becomes too phony.
Right.
And Shawn, and being like, I look at that hour match we had was an incredible match. Maybe I don't think I heard like Rock and HHH win an hour, maybe a 51-hour match a few weeks ago or something, but I don't think any match that I've seen that went an hour compared with the pace and the intensity of the match I had with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 12.
Is the art of telling a story important too here? You talked about the three things that you need as far as like work ethic, mic skills, and a look. You have to have good writers as well.
I never needed them. I don't know any. The only writer that I ever, and I wouldn't call him a writer, but the only guy that ever, I think, had a better, or as good, or, well, I shouldn't say better, but he had a great mind for wrestling and storylines and things like that was McMahon himself. Right. It was never ever written down. The story writer stuff is, that's something that's happening now. These storyline writers are more responsible for, driving trucks off bridges and stuff like that. That's kind of what they're doing. I don't know that Vince Russo or Eric Bischoff could, if they were, try to put my laces on my boots, I don't think they could get the string through the very first eye hole. They don't. I think that's what maybe the problem is in the WCW is they don't have any idea of what it takes to be a wrestler. They don't have any idea what it takes to understand the wrestling profession. And what's happened, I think, in the last few years is that the fans have changed. The fans don't care about whether they watch wrestling or not. They would just as soon watch Sabo lick somebody's high-heeled boots or something. It's become a different kind of entertainment. The writers, whether it's Vince McMahon or Jim Ross or Vince Russo or Eric Bischoff and all these guys, they've taken wrestling. It's out of where it used to be, which is I suppose that's fine. But there's people like me, and I think fans out there that loved wrestling for what it used to be in the history. I would much rather watch two really good, skilled wrestlers wrestling and telling a story with their bodies than watching these two wrestlers built into a storyline where the loser gets to shag his wife or something like that. It's just, to me, it's like it's a distraction. It just kind of takes away the reality and the fun of it for me.
Look for part 2 of Raz's match with WCW wrestling legend Bret Hart in 2 weeks as Bret talks candidly about Owen, Vince, and of course, the screw finish at SummerSlam. You can find Bret's book, The Best There Is, The Best There Was, The Best There Ever Will Be at bookstores everywhere. And check out Bret's website at BretHart.net. Next week, part 2 with WWF's Shane McMahon, the Giant Killer. What's the deal with all these part 2s?
It's time for Candy's Corner.
Well, here's the deal with the always controversial Tammy Sitch. This comes directly from Chris Candido, posted on their website. Tammy is fine. We have accepted the suspicion, but she passed the drug test she was given. Russo has big plans for both me and Tammy when my arm is healed. Well, there you have it. Let's put that one to rest. So where can you find out who the 2 new hotties in the WWF are? Check them out on their website, www.iiwins.com. That's the homepage for Diane and Elaine, the twins, that'll be making their debut in the WWF soon. Watch out. Check out WCW's new Saturday morning show as Nitro Girl Spice gets ready to add announcer to her resume. Rena Mero graces the cover of the latest issue of Fitness and Muscle magazine. Speaking of the former Sable, it seems her syndicated action show featuring Dennis Rodman won't be hitting the airwaves. The show was not picked up for the fall. Sorry, Rena, there's always wrestling. All right, pigs, it's time for your horny little segment. Announcer, do your job.
This week's piece of ass.
Just because I'm on here doesn't mean I don't have a choice on this week's piece of ass.
Jeez, I thought he was in Minnesota.
My choice this week is the cat. She's short, cute, and loves to be nude. What more can you ask for? The current Mrs. Lawler is a real sex kitten in the WWF, and she just loves to show off her body. She entered the WWF in 1999 as Miss Kitty. At Armageddon, Miss Kitty won the championship belt and changed her name to The Cat. The Cat really became noticed when she removed her top at a WWF pay-per-view event. While many viewers were entertained, many parents weren't, and the people behind the scene were more upset than usual. She was suspended for a while. After a brief hiatus, she came back and started feuding with Terry Reynolds. The Cat changes her hair more times than she changed her name. Her hair's been blonde, black, red, blue. I just want to find out if the drapes match the carpet.
All right, my tookus this week is Paisley. I saw her with the artist on Nitro and immediately let out a grunt. She's a former Miss Black America. She was a fly girl and toured with James Brown. She has funk, spunk. Now, pardon me while I beat my junk. Thank you. Freak.
My POA is Paula Poundshock. She's the chick who interviews everyone during Nitro. To say she is hot is an understatement. Blonde hair, blue eyes, cute voice, and the best part, she never wears a bra. She lets those puppies fly in the wind. Much props to any chick who goes braless. Hey, Candy, are those puppies harnessed? Well, Paula, I can't wait to see you naked. Oh, yeah, your interviews are pretty good, too. Candy?
My piece of ass this week is Buff Bagwell. He was a bad boy, paid his dues, and is finally back on the screen. I'll admit his line, "the girls can't get enough," used to annoy the hell out of me, but one look at his fine ass and all is forgiven.
More entertaining than the Dudley Boys giving you a 3D through a table. Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show.
Let's check back with Otis and some more wrestling dirt.
The Speculum with Otis Brawl.
Hey, this is Otis. I'm back with more. Hey, this just in. Scott Hall is making $16,000 a week to sit at home. That's a job for me. Hey, Ma, I want to be a wrestler. Big Sexy has long threatened to finish off his career with a reformation of the Clique. This one actually could finish off his career. Vampiro is ready to rock. He's working on an album with the Insane Clown Posse, and FYI, this could lead to a return to the WCW for the ICP. BFD. What's going on with ECW? Paul E. and his lawyers keep running out of town to L.A., no doubt in anticipation of their move to somewhere. USA, ESPN2, Fox, elsewhere? Crazy time. What surprises are in store for the late August tag team tournament in New York City? Could we see the early return of Lil Spike Dudley and a reunion with his last partner, Balls Mahoney? And what about my faves, Danny Doring and Amish Roadkill? They were supposed to get a big push. And who could be turning up unexpectedly to do battle for the tag team gold? Okay, remember, if you want to get a hold of me, obrawl at AOL.com. Obrawl at AOL.com. I'll be back next week with more rumors, dirt, and lies.
You want some? Come get some! You don't like me? Fight me!
After our next intermission, we head into the pit, so grab your nuts. In your case, Candy, your boobs.
Thanks, Raz, you pathetic idiot. Plus, we wrap up your Bone Crusher countdown.
Can I grab your boobs?
If you want to live, no.
I'm Edge of the WWF. You're listening to Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show.
Jabroni's Piledriver will be right back. You're listening to Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show.
It's Raz, and this is Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show. Here's the only band with socks on their Red Hot Chili Peppers and Californication.
Bone Crusher, number 2. Piledriver.
The Chili Peppers, your number 2 Bone Crusher. Are you ready, Freak? Mm-hmm. Candy?
Uh-huh.
You got 30 seconds to say what you want?
Let's get in the pit.
Freak, bring it.
Booker T, the new WCW champ. I can dig it. About time. Kudos to the doctor that gave Tori Wilson her new jugs. Job well done. Gorgeous George and the ECW, let the jacking begin. Edge and Christian are so totally fun. Mick Foley touring Southeast Asia. What is he, fighting commies? By the way, Candy, I'd like to hump you. To my good friends at the PTC and Steve Allen, you are my bitches. Candy?
Shane McMahon, China laying the smackdown on your pansy ass was the best part of the night. Word to the artist, don't ever lose those moves, darling. Lita, you can take the hits, girl. Freak, not a chance in hell. Mike Awesome, you rock for not accepting the belt without earning it, but stay away from that fat skank. You can do much better, darling. Come to Candy's Corner anytime. Raz.
The next great wrestling move, the traffic cone enema. Michael Buffer had a facelift. Bradshaw, lay off the beer. You're starting to get jubblies. Sign of the week, I farted. Lance Storm and Kurt Angle, that's wrestling. Corporal Cage's hair makes him look like pebbles. The artist looks stupid in a puffy shirt. Booker T, the WCW champ, that's cool in a new slant. But there's there a bigger reason? Every one of my caveman instincts come out when I see Lita. I want to bang her and cut her head off. I love her too much. 7-Up buckle to the PTC's pressure. 7-Up yours, pussies. WCW firing Hulk Hogan is equal to the Red Sox trading Babe Ruth. Man, I feel like Perry Saturn's eye. That's the pit for this week.
As always, if you want to answer our Bite Back question and maybe hear your horrible, annoying voice on the air, call us at 1-877-792-SLAM and answer the question.
That's 1-877-792-SLAM. Remember, it's a free call. Here's your number 1 most requested tune.
Bone Crusher, number 1.
Cut my life into pieces.
Piledriver.
Papa Roach, your #1 bone crusher. We'll be back to tell you candy asses who steps in the ring next week.
Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show. You're listening to Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show.
That wraps up this week's Kodiak Lite edition of Piledriver, the rock and wrestling radio show. We'll be back next week with Kodiak in all his glory, plus Freak and Candy will be back. Al and Otis will give you a mamacita-sized portion of news, rumors, and dirt. And next week, Shane O'Mac comes back to wrap up our match. And we'll announce who won some WWF Fully Loaded prize packs, courtesy of WWF's Fully Loaded on pay-per-view this weekend.
For daily updates on all your favorite wrestling action in and out of the ring, check out scoopswrestling.com. And if you want to contact us, check out our website at piledriverrocks.com and see how ugly these guys are.
How come you're not on the website?
Because I don't want all you toothless hillbillies J-O-ing all over the computer screen on me.
If you want the Kodiak Bear, you can email him at kodiakbear@kodiakbear.cc or call him at 973-743-0629, 973-743-0629.
This is Candy.
And this is Raz. Keep it in the ring. Candy, since you're our guest this week, you get to do the list.
No problem. The executive producer of Piledriver is Joshua Feigenbaum. Senior producer Phil Rado. Written and produced by Corey Natko.
Damn, he is cool.
Engineered by Rafael Jimenez.
Damn, he is uncool.
No. Production assistance by John Weber, Michael Azar, Diane.
Isn't she part of the PTC?
No, but she loves Mike Piazza.
Tonelli, Dwayne Crawford, Vinny Miko, Herb Perez, and John Boyanelli. Piledriver is an exclusive presentation of the MJI Radio Network. Copyright 2000. All rights reserved. No portion may be used without the written permission of the producers.
Oh, and thanks to our board operators across the country from coast to coast, including Paul Krieger of The Edge in Phoenix. See you.
Piledriver is not affiliated with the WWF, WCW, ECW, or any wrestling federation or publication. We're nobody's bitch.